Up to this point, we have constructed possible states, distinguishability, update, and selection. And we now understand how stable structures emerge. But one final problem still remains. If selection preserves stable structures, then another question appears. Can every stable structure become physically real? In the real world, not every possible structure survives. Not every pattern stabilizes. Not every mathematically possible configuration becomes physically realized. Something is still missing. Reality requires a definitive boundary. Constraint. We introduce a new symbol, omega. Omega represents constraint. Omega represents the limits defining which structures are actually allowed. Filtering boundaries forming inside possibility space. At this stage, omega is not yet a specific physical law. It is a more primitive idea, a boundary on distinguishability itself. Selection is no longer free. Selection now operates under constraints. We now arrive at the full definition of reality. Reality equals constrained selection applied to updated state space. The symbol R represents reality. Not everything possible. Only what survives the full generative process. First, the entire state space undergoes transformation. New configurations emerge, new possibilities appear. Then selection filters those transformations. Stable structures survive. Unstable structures disappear. But even stability alone is not enough. Some stable structures are still forbidden. Only stable structures satisfying the constraints survive. This is constrained selection. Reality consists of transformed structures, filtered by stability and limited by constraints. Reality is only a subset of all possible states. Not everything possible becomes real. Omega sub AO of S represents the number of accessible states. These are the configurations the system can actually reach. When more distinguishable states become accessible, information increases. When fewer states are accessible, information decreases. We can now define information. Information equals the logarithm of the number of accessible distinguishable states. The symbol I of S represents information. The natural logarithm compresses large numbers of possibilities, and omega sub A of S measures accessible configurations. When more distinguishable states become accessible, information increases. When fewer states are accessible, information decreases. Every system has a maximum distinguishability capacity. Complexity itself is constrained. Reality is not simply given. Reality is filtered into existence. Reality is not random. Reality is filtered structure. Everything possible exists inside S. Everything changes through U. Selection preserves stability, and omega restricts what is physically allowed. Reality is filtered into existence. Reality now emerges through 4 stages: difference, update, selection, and constraint. Reality is not simply given. This transforms the meaning of physics itself. Laws become emergent. Space and time become results. Physics becomes generative. We have now constructed constraint, accessible information, selected reality, and the full generative definition of existence. Reality is not all possibilities. Reality is the constrained remnant surviving transformation and selection. In the next lesson, we will enter the information field itself. We will ask, how does information become structure? Why can information be written as a field? And how does physics emerge from informational gradients?